I've seen a lot of theorizing about why Mirabel from Encanto didn't get any powers after her little ceremony, but my theory is that she did get powers. And there are clues throughout the film that show us exactly how powerful she is and what her powers are. But in order to understand Mirabel's powers, I think we have to better understand Abuela's, because I see a lot of people talking about how Abuela's power was to give the gifts, and I don't think that was her power. Abuela's power was all about protection, specifically building walls. In the flashback, when we see her initially being given her gift, it comes in the form of a huge barricade between her people and the danger. Then she is gifted a magical house, which is more like a fortress than anything. And every time she performs a ceremony to reveal one of her family members' gifts, they are given a door to separate them from the rest of the family. So I believe that these doors were completely separate from the gifts that they were being given, and this was another facet of Abuela's power. I think Mirabel's power was the ability to tear down and cross barriers, which is why the manifestation of her power when she touched the doorknob was to completely remove the door. And I don't think this just applies to physical barriers, because throughout the film we see Mirabel getting her family members to reveal themselves to her in very raw and unfiltered ways. The first example is with Antonio, who is intimidated and afraid by his abuela, but finds comfort in Mirabel. And just her presence gives him the strength to approach something very scary. The second and more obvious example we see is when Mirabel gets the vision from Casita about the walls breaking. This feels like a message being sent to her that no one else is capable of seeing from Casita itself. And then as the story goes on, we see this happening again and again with Luisa. She gets Luisa to actually break down and express her feelings, someone who has never been able to show any weakness. And the perspective of that song shows Mirabel reacting in the same way Luisa is to all of Luisa's fear, as if she's actually there. We see the same thing with Isabella, but we also see it with Tia Pepe. The whole song, We Don't Talk About Bruno, is about how they have not talked about Bruno in years, but Mirabel asks one question and they just spill their guts to her? It's because her power is to help other people break down the barriers that they have built themselves, the constraints, the limitation that they have constantly put on themselves. Mirabel entering Bruno's room is another example. That room was built to keep people out, but Mirabel is the only one who's able to cross the barrier and find the vision. The vision that prophesies Mirabel breaking down the entirety of the house so that it can be built back up without barriers. And in that way, Mirabel's power is an allegory for the message of the film itself, which is that generational trauma takes time to heal, but we can do it together. And sometimes you have to tear the house down to its foundation in order to rebuild it together without the things that divide us and hurt us. So Mirabel touching the doorknob of the newly finished house wasn't her finally receiving a gift. It was her subconsciously using her existing gift to create a shared door to the house where her family can flourish together without barriers.